Good evening. Police-involved shootings have taken center stage in the media over the past several years. I'd like to talk today about some of the less lethal options that law enforcement utilize in order to save lives and to not resort to using lethal force. The Department of Justice and the FBI in fall of 2015 released their Uniform Crime Report. In 2014, 11 million arrests were made in the United States of America. That same year, 48,000 law enforcement officers were assaulted. There are no national databases on the amount of citizens killed by police. Several citizen groups and online groups put the number at somewhere around 1,100 per year. Tonight I'd like to just talk about the less lethal options that we are trying to utilize in lieu of scrutiny from the shootings that have been involved and put forth in the media. First, I'll talk about my training and qualifications, and then I'm going to define what actual use of force is and the difference between less lethal and lethal force. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about some specific less lethal tools that are utilized by law enforcement. Myself, I've been a municipal police officer for 17 years. I work for a local municipality. 12 of those years I spent as a member of a regional SWAT team. I'm currently my department's use of force instructor. I'm certified in TASER. I'm certified to teach defensive tactics, pepper spray, and impact weapons. My job is to train and instruct the officers in my department on the appropriate use of force to protect not only the department but the officer from liabilities. Next, I'd like to talk about what is lethal force and less lethal force. The International Association of Chiefs of Police, in their 2001 publication, Police Use of Force in America, define force as the amount of effort required by police to compel compliance by an unwilling subject. Law enforcement agencies have policy, protocol, and guidelines on the use of force. Oftentimes it's called a force continuum or a use of force continuum. These are set forth to have the officers, the public, and the subject protected by the law enforcement agency, protect the law enforcement agency, and protect the officer who's utilizing the force to effect the arrest. Lethal force is any force that can cause serious bodily injury or death. A firearm utilized by a law enforcement officer is always lethal force. Law enforcement officers do not shoot to wound, they shoot to stop the threat. Firearms always considered lethal force. Other things can also be considered lethal force. If I hit a suspect with my vehicle, it can be considered lethal force. It's likely to cause serious bodily injury or death. Less lethal force is any force that is less likely to cause serious bodily injury and very unlikely to cause death. The overall purpose of use of force is to minimize the risk of injury to the subject or the officer while making the arrest. I'd like to talk about two relevant studies regarding less lethal force and less lethal weapons. The American Journal of Public Health in December of 2009, authored by J.M. McDonald, determined that injuries sustained during police use of force events were reduced drastically when agencies employ less lethal weapons in lieu of physical force. A second study, conducted by the University of South Carolina Research Foundation, published in May of 2001, determined that events using conducted electronic weapons, i.e. tasers, and pepper spray significantly reduce injury to suspects. Using conducted electronic weapons also significantly reduced injuries to officers. Now I'd like to speak about a few less lethal force options that are utilized by law enforcement today. First, the expandable baton. It's extremely lightweight. It's characterized as an impact weapon. Don't confuse it with the old nightsticks, billy clubs, saps of the past. This is designed to deliver a directed strike from a lightweight, fast-moving tip. Officers are instructed to only strike extremities and muscular parts of the extremities. The quadricep, the back of the thigh, the outside of the arms, or the outside of the forearms. Joints are never struck. The head and torso is never struck. When used properly, this is very unlikely to cause serious injury. Some of the pros of this is that it doesn't rely on technology. It is very simple. It's a stick. Some of the cons, in the face of the public, this may look like excessive force if used improperly. Second, I'd like to discuss pepper spray. Pepper spray is a derivative of Olarian capsaicum. It is made from cayenne peppers. It's delivered in a resin from an aerosol can, and it is measured strength-wise in Scoville heat units. This can delivers 1 million Scoville heat units. For example, for comparison, a green pepper is 0 Scoville heat units. A habanero pepper is 200 to 300,000 Scoville heat units. Some of the pros to this is that an officer can use it on multiple subjects at one time. An officer can use it to deny a specific area. If an officer's in an instance where he needs to retreat, he can use this to deny an access from a subject. It's also never been known to cause a death. There are no current records of anyone ever having a fatal event after exposure to pepper spray. Not to be confused with mace or tear gas. Pepper spray is the organic compound commonly carried by most all law enforcement agencies today. Third, I'd like to talk about everybody's favorite, the taser. This is a taser model X26P. It has the base, which contains the trigger mechanism, a laser, and a light. It also contains a CPU unit. The cartridge contains 2 metal probes with small fishhook-like barbs connected to up to 25-foot wires. The average is 15-foot, 25-footer for special circumstances or special instances. When deployed, a cartridge-in container propels the 2 probes, and the probes would be stuck into the subject. It is considered a conducted electronic weapon. Taser International is the company that makes the taser. Taser's a brand name. There are other companies out there that make electronic conducted weapons. Taser International is the most popular used in law enforcement today. It is used to incapacitate a subject. What it does is it interferes with the neuromuscular transmissions between the brain and the body. It scrambles the message center between your brain and your muscles, causing your muscles to contract uncontrollably, causing incapacitation. Subject falls to the ground because their muscles all contract. The typical delivery is 5 seconds. If the trigger's held on longer, it will continue longer. The 5 seconds was determined appropriate amount of time to take a subject into custody while they were incapacitated. The other part of the taser that's interesting is it has a computer in it. After the taser is deployed, the agency can download the information from the taser, and it gives the time of the deployment, the length of the deployment, and how many times the trigger was pulled. This protects the officer and the subject from excessive force or excessive force allegations. A study conducted in 2012 by Wake Forest in the Journal of Emergency Medicine supported the overall safety of conducted electrical weapons. They studied whether, if the probes were across the heart, can it cause a fibrillation that can lead to a fatality? Their study determined that it cannot. Taser International has done dozens and dozens of studies on this, but they could be biased as it is their company. There are a couple other less lethal force options that are utilized today by law enforcement. Many of them are used for crowd control. There are rubber projectiles that can be shot from either a shotgun platform or a modified handgun platform. There are crowd control devices such as pepper spray that can be delivered in larger amounts to detain or move along a crowd in civil unrest. A lot of these are used in corrections environments. There are a few future less lethal technologies that are currently in the works. One of which is a sound denial system in which audio sound waves can be directed at a specific area and it makes it uncomfortable to be in that area. So it would cause people to voluntarily leave an area with sound. A second one that's currently in development is a laser, which can be directed to a person and it causes a burning sensation on your skin without actually causing a burn. It would be another crowd control type or a corrections environment type utilization. So in review today I spoke about my training and qualifications, the differences between lethal and less lethal force, and we spoke about some specific less lethal weapons utilized by law enforcement today. I'd like you to remember that 11 million arrests are made per year on average in the United States, and only an extremely small amount result in the death due to lethal force. Our officers take an oath to protect and serve while enforcing our laws and utilizing less lethal force options help to accomplish that mission while striving to respect human life. Because in the end, every life matters. Thank you.
Joe?